Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. The opening, second full weekend in the month of March, but our opening weekend of conference tournament action in the regular season finale weekend around high major level men's college basketball. JY is here to talk about the tickets that were punched for the men's NCAA tournament this weekend. One on Saturday in the OVC tournament title game. SIU pulls off the upset, winning outright as a 2.5-point dog in their matchup against SEMO to get to the big dance for the first time. JY, on that board, you see 5 teams. 3 of those 5 heading to the NCAA tournament for the first time in program history. SIU, Edwardsville, the Omaha Mavericks, and High Point as well. Overall this weekend, JY, of the teams that have already made it to the big dance, what was your favorite moment? What was your favorite conference championship game? What was your favorite story of the weekend it was?
Well, listen, it's one of those things where you have to be playing your best basketball at this time of year. And really, you can't have a slip up of any point. So to me, I look at Lipscomb. You know, they have their star player, 20 and 18, but the play of Joe Anderson in the tournament, giving you 28, 25, 23. A guy that's a fifth-year guy, the last year of guys that can come in through the COVID portal, right? That gets that 5th year of eligibility. To go ahead and see what he did in that performance was absolutely fantastic. But then you look at a game like High Point, completely different. Not the star players. A team down 15 minutes left to go. Your season is on the line. And for them to go on the run that they did, not the 14 straight wins, but to win it with 44 players from your bench in the second half? Like, you want to talk about things that come out of nowhere. What they did is an essence of a team. And when you, as a coach, you always tell your bench guys, stay ready, stay ready. You don't know when I'm coming to you. Well, Alan Hust, a disciple of Greg McDermott, went to his bench, and they're going to the NCAA tournament. Congrats to them.
Yeah, it's great to watch it play out. Perfect storm there in the second half, making those adjustments in a certainly a pressure-filled environment. Talking about pressure-filled environments, we got the high majors this week, Coach, and we can't wait to watch afternoon basketball as that nice appetizer while we wait for next week's March Madness. Let me start you off in the ACC. Impressive victory for Duke at North Carolina. If we line up the ACC, they are the favorites, the Duke Blue Devils, to cut down the nets in the tournament at a minus 340 price, followed by Louisville, Clemson, and then North Carolina. Probably needs to run the table to win the ACC and punch their ticket into March Madness. Any chances Louisville or Clemson factor into this tournament and can pull down a plus 650 or 7-1 price here?
Well, at some point, you're going to have to figure, is Duke going to give you a bad game, right? And you have to worry about this. You remember when Dan Hurley's team didn't even win the Big East tournament a couple of years ago when they went on that huge run in the tournament. Sometimes you want to get that bad game out of your system now, right, before you get to the tournament. So that's you have to wonder. So you look at a team like Louisville, can they do something to push Duke? Pat Kelsey's done a great job coming over from Charleston. That team is dynamic. He's got a team that can rock. And then you never wonder about Duke. I know they're young. Like, can the spot get too big? What happened? That's the thing you have to worry about with Duke, right? The only thing. I know it sounds crazy. What happens if they're in a really tight game the last 3 minutes? They haven't been in one. So that's the thing we don't know about Duke yet, is how can those young kids handle the pressure, because they literally blow teams out the water.
And that's the thing, right? What if Duke has a bad game? It feels as though the Blue Devils' bad game right now is still about 4 or 5 points better than any other team around the ACC, but you can find some value from the bottom side of that bracket. Louisville, the 2 seed, Clemson, the 3 seed, also very successful ACC seasons, only 2 losses for either team. Of course, a story will be North Carolina, the 5 seed. They'll get the winner on Wednesday of an opening round matchup between Notre Dame and Pittsburgh. UNC doesn't care about that one. They need to win that one. They need to beat Wake Forest, and then they might be able to see their rivals in the Blue Devils again in the semifinals on Friday. That could provide a quad 1 opportunity that UNC desperately needs, or miss the tournament for the second time in the last 3 years. JY, how about some of those other conference tournaments that we have? In the Big 12, Houston has been in pole position each of the 2 seasons in the league. The Big 10, although Michigan State won the league outright by 3 games. Should be an exciting conference tournament in Indianapolis. And, of course, we'll get to the Big East in just a matter of moments. But when you talk about maybe the most highly anticipated SEC men's basketball tournament ever, that's what we can expect this week in Nashville. 4 of the 6 best prices to win a national championship out of the Southeastern Conference. How much of a gauntlet, JY, will the tournament title be out of the SEC?
You get worried that the team that comes out of the SEC, how much are they going to have left when they get to the following week? Because it is going to be a gauntlet. And you look at the prices, 4 teams at 5-1 or better in regards to winning. And obviously Auburn's come back to a little bit of the pack, losing 2 games in a row. Maybe they've gotten their bad blood out of the system. And you got to, what do you say? I mean, they lose a game in overtime on a pull-up runner, jumper, floater, whatever you want to call it, Mark Sears shot. They're sitting at plus 150. To me, you got to look at Alabama. If they continue to play better. See, for me, what Alabama is about the defensive end. Can he play defense? Can Grant Nelson play out of foul trouble? And as great as Janai Broome was on Saturday, what I did like about what Nate Oates did a lot, go to Nelson, let him go at Broome, and make Broome play defense on the other side of the floor. Alabama at plus 370, really intriguing to me. I think they could cut down the nets and win the SEC tournament.
That expected semifinal matchup on Saturday between Florida and Alabama. The Gators, the 2 seed, the Crimson Tide, the 3 seed. That could be a game that decides who earns a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Very exciting. Florida absolutely routing Ole Miss in its regular season finale. I still think the Gators, and some were talking about it even during the Iron Basket Bowl, might be the best team out of the SEC. I think Florida is that good. That will be a great conference tournament. We'll talk Big 10, Big 12, and, of course, the action we will see not far away from us this week at the world's most famous arena in the Big East tournament with JY on the other side of the break. This is the beautiful time of year in college basketball. Conference tournament week at the high major level, still with many more tickets to be punched in college hoops. Plenty more on the early line up next. We continue breaking down every aspect at every level of basketball, now specifically in college hoops, with our coach, JY James Young. Big East, Big 12, Big 10. JY, let's focus on Madison Square Garden for just a moment. We talked about the overtime thriller in the Iron Basket Bowl to end out the regular season between Auburn and Alabama on Saturday. How about the overtime thriller to start off the day inside the Pfizer Forum in Milwaukee between Marquette and St. John's? One of the best sequences of 3 seconds of basketball from team basketball I have ever seen. Marquette looks to get an offensive rebound after or defensive rebound after an R.J. Lewis miss. But Kadari Richmond pokes the ball free, ends up in Simeon Wilcher's hands. He dishes it off to Zuby Ejiofor, who beats the buzzer to win it for the Johnnies in overtime to win their regular season finale against Marquette. Of course, St. John's will enter MSG. Home floor advantage, although declared neutral site games by the quad perspective in terms of their NCAA tournament resume, as the favorites, JY, to win the Big East tournament crown as well. Will St. John's do so? And if not, who provides the toughest test for Rick Pitino and the Red Storm?
You know, listen, you can think it could be UConn because they're so flaky. And obviously you saw what they did, absolutely just demolishing poor Shaheen Holloway and Seton Hall a couple of days ago. But, you know, when you really look at it, to me, the team that's intriguing is what we get out of Creighton. This is a Creighton team that I know it doesn't look great now, did beat Kansas as an overall number 1 team at home. You have a experienced team with Ashford, obviously with Kalkbrenner at 7-1. Game slows down. Defensive rim protection becomes important. Greg McDermott's done a great job. So to me, Creighton is a team I would look at as to be the most dangerous. The team that needs the biggest run, that will be Villanova. Because everybody's saying if they don't win all these games straight out, Kyle Neptune is gone. So they need it more than anyone, which then could make an intriguing matchup in the quarters if they win 6-11 to go beat UConn, go play UConn in the 3-6 game, a team that they were up by 15 at UConn in the second half a couple of weeks ago.
If we take a look at all these conference tournaments, Coach, what do you get out of these here? Like when we're looking towards building a team towards a championship and getting momentum, do you have to make a deep run here? Is it a team that you look to get knocked out early? It's going to have redemption and some time off where maybe they don't have tired legs going into next week. What do you get out of this week's high major tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, it's really a mixed bag, Donnie, to be honest with you. If you're a team that's not playing well, I know they just lost, Marquette's been up and down. For a team like them, they need to kind of start to win and kind of get their mojo going. If it's a team like Duke, you may need to lose. Even St. John's, a team that is playing phenomenal basketball, would it be the worst thing? Devion Smith's already questionable for the game, according to John Rothstein an hour ago. So does St. John's, does it look better for them to be bowed out maybe in the round, in the semifinals? It all depends on the team and what they need. If you're playing bad, you got to play well right now. If you're playing great, maybe a bad game, get it out of your system before the tournament. It helps.
March is about momentum. You want to play your best basketball in the biggest of games, but you don't want to use all of your best basketball before the chaotic tournament known as madness. Jay Wise, we look at the national championship prices right here, right now. After Duke goes into Chapel Hill and wins, Auburn drops its final 2 games of the regular season. The Blue Devils now enter the postseason at large as those national title favorites. To cut down the nets, exactly 5 weeks from tonight in San Antonio. Maybe not even 5 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it might be. But Jay White, when you look at those prices to win a national championship, is there a team everybody needs to know and maybe wager on at this exact moment before conference tournament week at the high major level begins?
I'm intrigued at Iowa State at 25-1 if they are healthy. If they're healthy, they're one of the 5 best teams in the country, and they got enough firepower to score. There is a little concern I have with Duke, and not enough people talking about it. John Lucas took the job at Miami and left after Saturday. That's the associate head coach. That's the guard coach. Everybody's got to step up. How does that work with teams? I know when you get to the tournament, you're kind of rolling with scouting reports. It's a little bit different, more on the other assistants' plates. St. John's all about matchups, but that's the key, Ben. Matchups. You got to have the right matchups in the tournament. You may have to wait for the brackets to come out before you place your bets.
And that's the interesting component, right? Do you have value at this moment? Is there a price you need to grab right here, right now? Or should you wait till the bracket is unveiled in 6 days and then get back down on those national championship numbers? JY, a fade away to the break. Sure, we'll see you later this week. Hour number 3 of the Early Line now. Welcome to hour number 3 live right here on this Monday morning on the Early Line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. On this Monday, the college basketball slate just a tad bit smaller, but still, one bid to the big dance is available tonight. The Sun Belt Tournament Championship game between Arkansas State and Troy. We will look at that. We'll talk women's college basketball as well. Connecticut, led by Paige Beckers, looking to win the Big East tournament title tonight. And we'll get through all the games, and Donnie Rightside will give out some picks. We'll talk some NBA action. You'll have the prop perspective with the one, the only TV, Tom Vecchio, later on in this third hour. And any news that we might see in terms of NFL free agency with the legal tampering window beginning at noon Eastern time on this Monday afternoon, we'll bring you. If we can see it, it looks like Twitter is having a very difficult Monday and start to this new week.
No, it certainly is at this point now. So breaking news might have to be on a delay or on a hold right now. I'm trying to fire off some spicy tweets. And they keep telling me no.
TikTok?
I figure what is the deal here? Are we going on the threads? Where are we shifting this over to at this point right now? Blue Sky is where we have to chip into for NFL free agency today on this day. So you never know, because the interesting part about this, looks like it's loading a little bit for me, but I usually bring up the poll now to get the who's actually voting. I don't even know who's voting or what's going on. So here we go.
I'll tell you where we stand based on the percentages that we had when the graphic was made in terms of that Fade the Public poll in just a moment. I don't think Right Side is welcomed. A guy named Right Side on Blue Sky, but that could just be what I have heard. Talk to some of your boys. Yeah, you would hate to see that. But DRS, we do have the poll anyway, despite the fact that Twitter has been a little bit chaotic as of this Monday morning. And it's a great question with one of my favorite potential answers at the top that I look forward to see what Donnie's take is on it. High major level of college basketball. Power conference, if you will. Of course, in college football, it is the Power Four, the ACC, Big Ten, Big 12, SEC. But when you get to college basketball, you add in another high major league, if you will, in the Big East. So you can only do 4 options in a poll on Twitter, but we technically have 5. Looking forward to the response. Which high major conference tournament are you most looking forward to this week? It's time now for Fade the Public. And you do wonder, with some of the issues and the technology that has been faced this morning, just how much of the public was able to put in their vote for this poll. But right now, Donnie, your 4 options, technically 5, the ACC or Big East, option 1, Big 12, option 2, Big 10, option 3, SEC, option 4. Pretty narrow race between the SEC and the Big 10. But with maybe the most anticipated SEC men's tourney ever. With so many quality teams, the Southeastern Conference does win the poll as of this moment, 40% of the vote. Which way did DRS get his vote down?
Yeah, I don't believe this. Like, 'cause we're down right now. What was it, like 1 vote for you for the Big Ten, which got the 36% right in that? Because I would have figured the Big Ten should have got lumped in with the Big East and actually gave them an actual fighting chance in there, where the Big 12 gets disrespected. The SEC we knew would be in first place, but I need to see if that voting had actually stopped at this point, because I'm shocked that the Big Ten got 36% of those votes in here. I need to see some actual updates when they start to come through here.
Moves the needle. Conference that moves the needle. Garners a lot of attention in Indianapolis, and people paying the appropriate respect, in my estimation, to this nation's greatest sports hosting city, that is downtown Indy. To be able to host the Big Ten tournament in men's basketball immediately following a great women's tournament. Congrats to UCLA, winning their first Big Ten title against their crosstown foes from Los Angeles, USC, getting some revenge. UCLA might be that number 1 overall seed in the women's NCAA Tourney selection Sunday, also just 6 days away. But, Donnie, really the question for you, not what way did you vote, not are you fading the public. What did you make of Joe Frizo, our producer extraordinaire, combining the ACC and the Big East in option number 1? And do you think most of that percentage voting-wise is the ACC, or do you think it's some love for the Big East?
That's probably more love for the Big East, because Duke seems to be, again, Duke's not really a runaway victor in the ACC. It just appears that way. Like Clemson, like right on their heels along with Louisville. So not like, oh, this is going to be a predetermined function. But I do think the Big East just generates that nostalgia, because St. John's is back this year. It's always in Madison Square Garden. You always get those interesting things. Now, Shabazz Napier from 15 years ago at this point now, like you have those highlights already in there. The Allen Iverson days from the past, the Ray Allen days.
Kemba,
you get all that hype there from there. So was it Kemba? It wasn't Shabazz?
Kemba. Cardiac Kemba.
When did Shabazz go off, though? When did Shabazz go nuts?
Shabazz also went off.
Yeah.
But the run that I think you're thinking of the 2011 run?
I can't. It was
UConn
15 years ago, whenever it was. Yeah. Okay. What did Shabazz do? Shabazz hit a natty.
In 2014, UConn. Yeah. I don't know, what was UConn's outlook in 2014? I know it was the one title that Kevin Ollie won, and it was like the anomaly. Let me go back. Let's take a look here on Ken Palm on what the numbers were for UConn.
Might as well.
They weren't great, 39th in terms of offensive efficiency, but that was out of the American. So the game in the Big East tournament, that run that you're thinking of was Cardiac Kemba, the step back against Pitt inside Madison Square Garden. Yeah, there you go. So there you go. The nostalgia's back in the Garden. Home court advantage. Well, we'll see if it plays out. But I sentimental for me for the Big East. Like when I was a kid growing up and cable TV first came in, like obviously being in New Jersey, Villanova just outside the city, upsetting Georgetown, like that was the place to be, was Madison Square Garden. So it holds a little bit of that nostalgia for me. Yeah, and then you saw, of course, what we had in terms of the overtime game against Syracuse. Incredible things when you think of Syracuse in the Big East tournament, Syracuse in the ACC tournament. Very, very different. But DRS, as we look at the odds for the high major tournament and the favorites in each league, St. John's, of course, the favorite inside Madison Square Garden. Will be really interesting to see what the 2-seed Creighton provides. UConn is the 3 seed. Xavier the 4, Marquette the 5. Marquette and Xavier will face off in their opening game on Thursday. Winner of that one, of course, will advance to semifinal Friday at the Big East tournament to take on St. John's. That will be really interesting, or more than likely St. John's. St. John's does have a game in the quarterfinals on Thursday as well. Creighton, a very peculiar team. A lot of talent there this year. Stephen Ashworth and Ryan Kalkbrenner, maybe the best big in all of college basketball. But Greg McDermott's teams have often been known for great offense and a ton of pace, and the defense trails behind. This year, the defense is really good for Creighton. We'll see what happens for the Jays moving forward. I think the Big Ten tournament, of course, I'm Big Ten Ben, but I have a little bit of bias toward it. I think it is really compelling. Michigan State won the regular season crown by 3 games, but still the Spartans not looked at as the runaway favorite. I do think there is some value on Purdue. The Boilermakers are the 5 seed. They are a 7-1 price. Michigan losing yesterday in East Lansing to the Spartans in that rivalry game dropped Michigan all the way to the 4 seed in the Big Ten tournament. The Maize and Blue still earning that double bye, but dropping their final 3 games of this regular season and certainly leaking some oil. I think Purdue is in a great matchup against Michigan in what would be that 4-5 game. Maryland, the 3 seed. Maryland might have a difficult quarterfinal game on Friday against a streaking Illinois team that is the 6 seed in Indianapolis. Bottom half of the bracket, sensational, and I do think Purdue or Illinois could have a good path to that tournament title game against, more than likely, Michigan State.
Yeah, I think Michigan State also, obviously, being the favorites at plus 260, a great shot. Like, they're just the type of team that probably would thrive off that neutral court environment where maybe not the greatest shooting lines, not used to playing there. They don't rely on the 3-point shot to be the end-all, be-all. But if one of these teams can get hot like Purdue, which, by the way, I would lose Purdue plus 4.5 on Friday night. I mean, they covered 99.9% of that game. I woke up and saw they lost. I mean, you got to be kidding me at that point. So Purdue still has the weapons here that if they get hot from 3-point range, sometimes it doesn't matter what the other team does on offense.
And Michigan State shot the 3-ball great yesterday in the regular season finale. Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. It is a Monday that really conference tournament week picks up. We've got 2 spots in the NCAA tournament up for grabs tonight. We'll break it down. But, Donnie, before we get there, just quickly some NFL news as the insiders can get back on Twitter and get some things out. J.C. Horn, the cornerback for Carolina, a Pro Bowler, is now the highest paid DB in NFL history. A 4-year, $100 million deal with $70 million guaranteed. That is a $25 million per year AAV. J.C. Horn, one of the anchors of that defensive side for a Panthers team that should be feeling rather optimistic entering this offseason, is staying in Carolina.
Yep. What they feel is they have their franchise cornerback as well as franchise quarterback. He's 25 years old. So you sign him for 4 years. He'll still be in his prime all the way through. And a rebuild in the NFL, what's a long-term one technically? Maybe 3-4 years at the most. So he'll still be in his prime if you figure Carolina turns it around. You don't mind it. You have to spend the money on somebody. He's a very good player in his mid-20s. It's a good move for the Carolina Panthers to lock it up. And by the way, other players on other teams, cornerbacks, like, they are just ringing the phone for the general manager. Like every single thing that comes back is like a record-breaking deal come back. And also, Jaylen Warren, Ben, does sign doesn't sign, but gets hit with the, I forget what the tag is called, $5.38 million, like a second round tender tag, restricted free agent. Because I was wondering where the Steelers will go at running back. They're not losing Jaylen Warren, which means Najee didn't get one of those tags, and he's a free agent. So keep an eye out on that one. So a lot of things moving around the NFL this morning.
A lot of stuff happening out of Pittsburgh. That will continue noon Eastern time. The official legal tampering window underway, but maybe some illegal non-tampering window happening earlier over the weekend. There will be a flurry of moves we expect on the really first full day of free agency around the NFL that we'll have for you tomorrow morning. 2 spots into the men's NCAA tournament. 2 tickets looking to be punched tonight. First, we start in the Sun Belt Championship, the gauntlet that it was. As Donnie and I were breaking it down, right? The 1 seed, South Alabama, the 2 seed, James, they got buys all the way until yesterday in the semifinal round, but they took on the 3 and 4 seeds and got beat. Arkansas State, who was the favorite to win the Sun Belt men's tournament and get that automatic bid to the big dance, is the ever so slight favorite tonight against Troy. DRS, let's start in the Sun Belt, then we'll get to the SoCon and the matchup between Furman and Wofford for that tournament title as well. Sun Belt championship game How do you break it down between Troy and Arkansas State?
It's kind of tough. Like, liking Arkansas State yesterday, bet them at that point. And by the way, only when what was the final score? Was it 74-71, something like that? I needed them to cover minus 4.5 late in that game. Had an easy cover, a free ball with 3 seconds to go. A couple missed free throws was down. But Arkansas State, I thought, was the better team yesterday and handled their business. However, they are the number one, most efficient team on offense in conference play. But the matchup isn't fantastic. And even from Troy's perspective, right, they love to shoot the three-point shot. They don't make a lot of them, only about 30%. But the problem is Arkansas State's defense really defends the three-point line and chases you off the three-point line. If you look at how many teams in conference play, I believe it's 14. Point distribution here, last is Troy inside the arc. Number 2 is Arkansas State. So they don't even match up the way you want to match up if Troy wants to pull this game out. So I do lean on Arkansas State because I like the defensive matchup and they do have the best offense in conference play, but it's probably going to be a no play for me after all. But I'll root for Arkansas State in this one.
The slight favorite, Brian Hodson, has done a great job in his 2 years with the Red Wolves. 20 wins in year number 1, looking for win number 25 today in the matchup against Troy. It would be Arkansas State's first appearance in the Big Dance since 1999. A long time coming. SoCon tournament title game. Not the teams we expected to be here. Furman knocks off Chattanooga in OT yesterday. What a job by Furman. Lost a guy named J.P. Pegues. You probably remember the name. He hit that game-winning 3 against Virginia. Now, 2 big dances ago. He's riding the pine at Auburn, but was a big acquisition in the transfer portal this offseason. They knock off Chattanooga. Wofford pulls off the upset as well. 2.5-point spread in favor of the Paladins today against Wofford DRS, who earns that spot in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, Wofford yesterday with a nice cover. Easy victory, minus 9.5. Here's the tough part about this, too, is you take a look at Furman's defense. They don't foul, so you're not going to steal those free throw line points there. And also understand this. You do, but this conference loves to shoot the three-point shot. 47% of the shots from three-point land coming from Wofford out of their total offense, but you have that Furman defense. 4th in conference at defending the three-point shot, number 1 in conference at chasing you off. How about Furman's offense? Half of their field goals, Ben, come from three-point range. 8th in conference play at letting you shoot it is Wofford's defense. You probably give I don't have this one on my card, but I probably would give the light lean here and say, you know what, give me the team that's going to be able to shoot the three-point shot as many times as they want, and that's Furman. Slight lean for me towards Furman today.
And they have a better three-point percentage as well. 51.1
Correct.
Of the overall field goal attempts for the Paladins come from deep. Crazy. 35.9% is that three-point percentage. Those are the 2 finals today. WCC semis. The big boys in action. Gonzaga, 14.5-point favorite against San Francisco. And Pepperdine on a magical March run. They have won 3 games in 3 days. They take on the top team in the West Coast Conference in St. Mary's. 19.5-point spread.
Yeah, here's the tough part about this, too, is you take a look at Pepperdine's offense. They better score down low, and they might be able to a little bit, even though St. Mary's the best overall defense in conference play. We look at point distribution. Nobody allows more points inside the arc than St. Mary's because they're very good at defending the three-point line. But you take a look at the matchup here for St. Mary's offense. They should be able to do whatever they want against Pepperdine. Could we have a sneaky total, not team total go over in this game if Pepperdine can get anything going on offense against St. Mary's?
For the Gales, one of the slowest teams in college basketball. Pepperdine, by the way, has won outright as a double-digit dog in each of their last 2 teams. The Waves rolling. They were a 15.5-point dog against Santa Clara. DRS, anything else on that board? Any other play in the final 30 seconds?
Yeah, here's it. Charleston, Montana State, Towson, and St. Mary's. Not saying I'm taking them all, but those are the teams I'm looking at today, whether to win the game or take a team total. We'll be able to factor in. The good part about it, Ben, there's no noon games today. We have all afternoon to get these right, and I'll put them out on Twitter when they're done. Oh, I'm a man of the people. I like to share.
Yeah, you certainly are. And we'll talk tomorrow, DRS. Looking forward to it. Enjoy the money line. More college basketball news next. Breaking news out of the National Football League. Things you can expect all day long. Khalil Mack, a free agent perhaps, but heading back to the Los Angeles Chargers on a 1-year, $18 million deal, maybe ending out his career in LA. There was a thought and some speculation around National Football League circles that Mack would return to Chicago to anchor a Bears D-line in the final year of his career, ending things out where he spent some of his prime, of course, after leaving the Raiders. He will remain in Los Angeles. 1 year, $18 million deal to stay with the Bolts. Plenty of news expected on the first full day of free agency around the NFL when teams can agree to terms with those players and their representation, of course, in a legal tampering window that starts this afternoon at noon Eastern time. Any news around the NFL? And, of course, there will be some that we see on this Monday. We'll recap for you on a Tuesday starting at 8 a.m. Eastern. But on this Monday, so much good college basketball. And that includes in women's college hoops as well. UConn, the national championship favorites, looking to claim the Big East tournament title today against Creighton. The Connecticut Huskies, an 18.5-point favorite to knock off the Jays and claim the Big East crown, trying to make sure they can be a 1 seed in the NCAA women's tournament. But because of the fact the Big East on the women's side, not nearly as strong as the Big Ten, the SEC, heck, even the Big 12 or ACC this year, UConn doesn't have some of the strong metrics that others do. Could all 4 1 seeds hail from 2 leagues like South Carolina and Texas out of the SEC, USC and UCLA out of the Big Ten? Perhaps. But again, those national championship odds as of this moment. UConn a co-favorite alongside South Carolina. Paige Beckers and the Huskies. An 18.5-point favorite against CU in the Big East tournament title game on this Monday. Let's recap Championship Sunday with the other 4 power conferences. South Carolina dismantling Texas, winning by nearly 20. Expected that game to be a lot closer. The Gamecocks were a 3.5-point favorite. They win 64-45. South Carolina, the 1 seed in the SEC tournament because of the coin. The coin knew exactly what it was doing. Big Ten title game. UCLA entered yesterday's matchup against their crosstown rivals in Southern Cal. 29-2 this year. The only 2 losses for the Bruins against USC in the regular season. The Trojans only 2 losses, led by Big Ten Player of the Year, Juju Watkins, and Wooden Award favorite. They lost to Iowa on Caitlin Clark's jersey retirement day and earlier in the year as well in non-conference action. Blanking on the team. I looked this up. Was it Louisville? It was some team out of the ACC, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, only 2 losses for USC. So a huge matchup in a Big Ten tournament championship game in Indy between the 2 schools, separated by about 15 miles in Los Angeles. And UCLA got its revenge. The Bruins down by 10 at the break, 13 early in the third quarter. Lauren Betts, one of the best bigs in college basketball, showing through. UCLA and USC plus 550, tied for the third best price. Texas also plus 550. Notre Dame struggled, got knocked off in the ACC tournament. So the title game yesterday, Duke and NC State, the Blue Devils win big, 76-62, first tournament title under Carol Lawson. That a big win there for the Blue Devils. And in Big 12 tournament title, TCU, led by Haley Van Lith, knocking off Baylor 64-59. The Horned Frogs an 80-1 price. But could they be an Elite 8 team? Maybe making that number look a lot shorter? Perhaps rounding out that board. Still keep an eye on Westmore and NC State, a Final Four team a season ago. All right, the rest of our college basketball slate on this Monday. You heard from DRS, highlight Towson. They're taking on Delaware, a Delaware team into the semifinals. Right now of CAA tournament action. A Delaware team that lost 11 of their last 12 in the regular season, but they have won 3 straight to get to this point to match up against Pat Scarry and his Tigers. Still like Towson in the game. Total 144.5. Delaware can shoot the 3. Towson is good defensively, as you will find. So many other things happening as well. And again, a reminder for your tournament titles and the 2 tickets at stake tonight to the men's NCAA tournament. In the SoCon, it's Furman versus Wofford. In the Sun Belt, Troy and Arkansas State. All of that recapped for you on a Tuesday morning on the early line on SportsGrid. 8 a.m. Eastern time. We'll talk then.